Namaste. Welcome to the Hindu Dharma Basics and Beyond podcast, a podcast that gives you authentic knowledge covering broad topics on Hinduism, the ancient Vedic wisdom. The podcast is based on the book by the same name by Pujya Swami Viditatmananda Saraswati, one of the most respected scholars and teachers of Advaita Vedanta today. This episode explores how Sri Goswami Tulsidasji portrays the divinity of Ram in his great work, the Ramcharitmanas. About 500 years ago, Saint Tulsidasji penned the famous Ramcharitmanas, which also describes the life of Lord Rama. Tulsidasji composed the Ramcharitmanas in the Awadhi dialect so that common people could have access to it and understand it. We saw in the last podcast that he depicts Ram more as a god than as a prince or human being. Devotion is the principal value portrayed in this great work. I spoke to Srimati Rohini Jadeja, a great devotee of Ramcharitmanas, who is also a disciple of Swami Viditatmananda. She can recite the entire Ramcharitmanas and she could do it by heart since a very young age. The following podcast is based on her words about the divinity of Ram as portrayed in the Ramcharitmanas of Sri Tulsidasji. The audio she sent me was in Hindi. Rohini ji is chanting the original verses while I am narrating the translation in English. Rohini ji said that the Ramcharitmanas composed by Swami Tulsidasji is an exceptional, unparalleled literary composition. The divinity of Sri Ramcharitmanas is such that a person who listens to it experiences the eternal and ultimate truth. Sri Tulsidasji was a great devotee of Lord Ram. In writing the Ramcharitmanas, he has portrayed Ram as the Lord. In every kanda, he has exemplified Ram's glory, his simplicity, his gentleness, and his divinity in every context of his life through each role that he played. Sri Tulsidasji clearly perceived Ram manifested as the entire creation and described this vision in the following chaupai of the Ramcharitmanas.
सिय राममय सब जग जानी करहूँ प्रणाम जोरी जुग पानी.
Recognizing the entire creation as full of Ram and Sita, I salute them with joined palms.
जी महा आदि मध्य अवसाना प्रभु प्रतिपाद्य राम भगवाना.
Tulsidasji says, in the beginning, in the middle, and the end, it is Prabhu Ram who is everywhere. Goswami Tulsidasji was not only an ardent devotee of Ram, he was also devoted to chanting his name. In the Balkanda, he says in the beginning itself,
एहि मह रघुपति नाम उदारा अति पावन पुराण श्रुति सारा मंगल भवन अमंगल हारी उमा सहित जेहि जपत पुरारी.
this composition of mine contains the gracious name of Raghupati, which is exceedingly sacred and the very essence of the Puranas and the Vedas. It is the abode of blessings and remover of all sorrow, and is chanted by Lord Shiva and his consort Uma. Chanting his name confers all well being and removes all obstacles. When Sri Ram was traveling with sage Vishwamitra, the sage encourages Sri Ram to kill the demoness Tataka, and Tulsidasji says,
एक ही बान प्राण हरि लीना, दीन जानिते ही निज पद दीना.
such is Lord Ram's compassion that even as his one arrow took the demoness Tataka's life, he conferred his own state on her. We see the glory of Lord Sri Ram in the story of Devi Ahalya. Sage Vishwamitra and Lord Ram were traveling together when they encountered an ashram in which there were no animals, birds, or plants. They only found a huge stone figurine. When Sri Ram asked sage Vishwamitra about the ashram being devoid of any living being or form, sage Vishwamitra told him,
गौतम नारी साप बसा, उपल देह धरि धीर, चरण कमल रज चाहती, कृपा करो रघुवीर.
Sage Gautama's wife, having assumed the form of a stone under a curse, is awaiting the dust of your lotus feet. Please show mercy on her, O hero of Raghu's race.
परसत पद पावन, शोक न सावन, प्रगट भई तप पुंज सही, देखत रघुनायक जन सुखदायक, सन्मुख होई कर जोरी रही.
At the very touch of his holy feet, the touch which drives away all sorrow, emerged Ahalya, a true embodiment of austerity. Beholding Raghupati, the delight of his devotees, she stood before him with joined palms. This is the Lord's Daiva Shakti, his divinity, and we can see how Ahalya regained her pure form. Her heart was overwhelmed with love. The hair on her body stood on end, and she was unable to utter a word. Recovering herself, she praises Lord Ram.
राजीव बिलोचन भव भय मोचन, पाहि पाहि शरणहि आई, मुनि श्राप जो दीना, अति भल कीन्हा, परम अनुग्रह मैं माना, देखें भरी लोचन, हरि भव मोचन, इह इलाभ शंकर जाना.
O lotus-eyed Lord, you rid your devotees of the fear of rebirth. Therefore, I have taken refuge in you. Pray save me, save me. Her perspective on her curse is transformed. She says, my consort did well in pronouncing a curse on me, and I deem it to be the greatest favor, as I have feasted my eyes on you, who are none other than Sri Hari. I have been liberated from the bondage of worldly existence. Lord Shiva deems your sight as the only blessing worth the name. Tulsidasji declares in the end,
अस प्रभु दीन बंधु हरि, कारण रहित दयाल, तुलसीदास सठते ही भजू, छाड़ी कपट जंजाल.
The Lord, Sri Hari, is such a great friend of the people needing blessings. He is compassionate no matter what, even without a reason. Tulsidas reminds himself, "Give up all deceit and cunning, O foolish Tulsidas, and adore him." Later in the story, there is a confrontation between sage Parshurama and Lord Rama. Sage Parshurama did not recognize Ram as the Lord. He wanted to test him. Parshuram says,
राम रमापति करधनु लेहु खैचहु मिटे मोरा संदेहु देत चापू आपु ही चली गयऊ परशुराम मन विस्मय भयऊ.
"O Ram, if you are Vishnu, then take this bow and draw it so all my doubts are cleared." And when Parshuram offered the bow to Ram, there was no need for Ram to touch it, because on its own accord it passed into Ram's hands. Parshuram then recognized Ram's might, and his whole being was so thrilled with joy that his hair stood on end. Joining his hands together, he addressed the following words with his heart bursting with emotion.
जय रघुवंश बनज बन भानु गहन दनुज कुल दहन कृशानु जय सूर विप्र धेनु हितकारी जय मद मोह कोह भ्रमहारी विनयशील करुणा गुण सागर जयति बचन रचनायति नागर करऊं काहा मुख एक प्रशंसा जय महेश मन मानस हंसा.
Glory to Sri Ram, who delights Raghu's line, even as the sun delights a cluster of lotuses. Glory to that fire that consumes the forest of the race of demons. Glory to the benefactor of gods, Brahmanas, and cows. Glory to him who takes away pride, ignorance, passion, and delusion. Glory to him who is an ocean of humility, amiability, compassion, goodness, and who is a great orator. Glory to the delighter of his devotees. Glory to him who is graceful of every limb, whose form possesses the beauty of millions of cupids. How can I, with one tongue, utter your praises, O Ram? Glory to him who sports in the mind of the great Lord Shiva as a swan in the Manas Sarovar lake. In Sundarkan's Mangalacharan, Tulsidas waxes eloquent in Sanskrit, praising Lord Ram.
शान्तं शाश्वतमप्रमेयमनघम् निर्वाणशान्तिप्रदम् ब्रह्मा शम्भुफणीन्द्रसेव्यमनिशम् वेदान्तवेद्यं विभुम् रामाख्यं जगदीश्वरं सुरगुरुं मायामनुष्यं हरिं वन्देऽहं करुणाकरं रघुवरं भूपालचूडामणिम्
I adore the Lord of the universe, bearing the name of Ram, the chief of Raghu's line, and the crest jewel of kings, the mine of compassion, the dispeller of all sins, appearing in human form through his Maya, the greatest of all gods, knowable through Vedanta, constantly worshipped by Brahma the creator, Shambhu Lord Shiva, and Shesha the serpent god, the bestower of supreme peace in the form of final beatitude, placid, eternal, beyond the ordinary means of cognition, sinless and all-pervading. Parshuram refers to Lord Ram's divine incarnation, saying,
नान्यस्पृहा रघुपतेर्हृदये स्मदीये सत्यं वदामि च भवान्नखिलान्तरात्मा भक्तिं प्रयच्छ रघुपुङ्गवनिर्भरां मे कामादिदोषरहितं कुरु मानसञ्च
There is no other craving in my heart, O Lord of the Raghus. I speak the truth, and you are the Spirit indwelling in the hearts of all. Grant me intense devotion to your feet, O crest jewel of Raghus, and free my mind from faults like craving. Tulsidasji, in his portrayal of Ram, shows us that Ram, the goal, is knowable and accessible, and is also a role model for us, a role model that we can adore and emulate. Sri Ram is so simple that he expresses the same sentiments when he describes the devotee whom he loves.
सरल सुभाव न मन कुटिलाई जथा लाभ संतोष सदाई
A guileless disposition, a mind free from contrariness, and absolute contentment with whatever is got. This is all that is needed. The Ramcharitmanas journey starts with the vision that this whole universe is permeated by the Lord.
उमाज राम चरण रता विगत काम मद क्रोध निज प्रभुमय देखहि जगत केहि सन करहि विरोध
Lord Shiva tells Uma, those who are devoted to Sri Ram's feet become free from lust, vanity, and anger, and look upon the whole world as full of their Lord. In Vedanta, it is said, Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. All this is indeed the Lord. Here too, in the Manas, Sri Goswami Tulsidasji says that hearing this story, our vision becomes so pure that we see the whole universe in the form of the Lord and become free of our binding likes and dislikes. Sri Ramachandra Ji ki Jai. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I'm Swami Vidyananda, a Hindu monk and teacher of Vedanta, the Vedic wisdom that liberates. Do write to me at hindudharmabasics@gmail.com if you have any questions about what was shared in this episode. I thank Dr. Savitri Ramaya, a dear friend, who puts the final valuable editing touches on these podcast episodes. I also thank wholeheartedly Srimati Rohini Jadeja for providing all the content of this podcast, including her soulful rendering of the verses of the Ramcharitmanas. In our next episode, we will explore some aspects of the epic Mahabharata. We end with a prayer. Asato ma satgamaya Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Satyameva Jayate. Truth alone conquers.